In 2056, the world's environment has deteriorated beyond a critical state. Only the rich can afford to live in air domes, which filter the contaminated outside air. The last extraterrestrial research base still searching for solutions to the environmental crisis. One day, Nebra sends Commander Hannah and chemist Gavin to check on Rubicon by traveling on the Navicon shuttle. However, reaching Rubicon gets complicated because for some reason it isn't at the coordinators that appear on the screen. Hannah has to pull a very dangerous maneuver to get the shuttle to lock with the station, where the crew thinks the mistake comes from the Navicon systems. They also aren't very happy to notice Hannah is military, as proven by the chip on her neck. After requesting a report to know why the Navicon lost course and seeing the algae farm, Hannah settles in her room and calls her sister Knopf, who is also in the military. Later, the crew of the Rubicon has a toast to celebrate that most of them get to return to Earth now that Hannah and Gavin are here to replace them, and 3 more people should be flying in soon. The head of the research team, Dr. Dimitri, is friendly and invites them to play cards, but his son Danilo is hostile towards Gavin because he's from a rich family that lives safely in a dome. The next day, the entire crew leaves except for Dimitri, Gavin, and Hannah. Danilo takes some other cultures with him as requested by Nebra, and Dimitri swears they'll last the entire flight, but his demeanor is kinda awkward. Afterward, Hannah calls her superiors to give them an update, pointing out the mother cultures they've sent have probably been manipulated. The Nebra bosses don't care anymore. They inform Hannah there's been a change of plans and she must get the Icarus plan ready in a few days, so Hannah will have to work faster on studying how Dimitri has managed to create an algae system that provides air and food. Sometime later, they receive a message from the crew, who are still in transit. They're running blind and unable to contact any base on Earth, so Hannah tries to call herself, but she doesn't get an answer either. Thinking it may be a problem with the optical unit not sending a signal, Hannah decides to spacewalk to check their systems, but it's too late. The crew screams through the intercoms, saying they're burning down before the connection is lost. When Hannah turns around, she discovers Earth is getting completely covered by a brown fog. When she returns to the station, Hannah tries to contact ground control again, to no avail. Dimitri grieves his son and Hannah goes to check her personal tablet to find a message from Knopf, who explains Earth is in the middle of chaos and all units are being called back to evacuate people to bunkers. Sometime later, Hannah decides to work on a new radio using old parts she finds around the station, but interrupts her tinkering when she notices Gavin acting strange. It turns out the computer has finished the analysis of Earth's atmosphere, and the results have scared him into wanting to end things for himself. When Gavin wakes up later, he rushes to the computers and explains to the others what he's discovered. The fog is toxic, which means everyone on Earth is dead. At that moment, Gavin begins having a panic attack, so Dimitri sedates him before telling Hannah they're safe here in the station. The algae project was successful, meaning they should have air and food to survive for a long time. Hannah decides to continue working on that radio, because surely there must be survivors in the domes. After another spacewalk to redirect the antenna, Hannah finally gives the radio a try, but once again they get no answer. When Gavin wakes up, he explains the fog probably comes from a chain reaction caused by the permafrost gases that environmentalists have been warning people about for years. Some weeks later, Hannah discovers a weird brown color on the algae farm. Dimitri tells her it's normal and not to worry, but after she leaves the room, he takes a sample to run some tests. The results clearly bother him, but instead of telling the others, he invites them to have a night of gambling and drinking. Sometime later, Hannah is throwing up in secret and discovers the weird brown substance is spreading through the algae. At that moment, something incredible comes through the communicators. A group of Nebra survivors has finally managed to make contact. There are 300 people left in that dome, and their oxygen will run out soon, so they need the algae project. Hannah is surprised they know about it, which means the survivors are all CEOs and their families. Hannah and Gavin discuss the matter in private and decide they'll be leaving with or without Dimitri, so they'll take the samples by force if necessary. To stop them, Dimitri finally reveals how far the brown goo has spread and explains it's Hannah's fault. The algae feed from the crew's urine and the station's nutrient cycle. They also are sensitive to hormones. This can only mean one thing: Hannah is pregnant. Hannah refuses to believe it because soldiers are supposed to be infertile, but Dimitri explains the chip may be malfunctioning because she's lost contact with the ground base for a long time. The trio gets ready to leave, but the shuttle isn't working well. The cooling systems have shut down for some reason, and now the shuttle's gas tanks are overheating. It'll blow out any minute now, so Hannah disconnects it from the station and lets it float away until it explodes far from them. This means they're now stuck in the station forever. Later, while Gain sleeps, Hannah discovers a trail of algae on the wall and follows it into a panel where she discovers the cooling system had been sabotaged. Hannah comforts Dimitri, who admits he did it, but his intention had only been to delay, not to explode. Afterward, Hannah works on removing the chip from her head before resting, but her nap is interrupted by some weird noises. It's Gavin, who has tied Dimitri up and is planning to drop the lab with or without Hannah. Seeing no other choice, Hannah joins them, but at the last second, she pushes Gavin away and tears off the Icarus system. She knows how to fix it but she won't, So a furious Gavin leaves while Hannah frees Dimitri. Hannah now wants to start fixing Icarus as soon as possible, suspecting Gavin sacrificed himself to oblige them to go back to Earth in order to survive. Dimitri's shocked to hear this and has a breakdown because the three people excuse had been a lie to stop Gavin from doing precisely this. Years pass, and Hannah has a kid that she names Knopf after her sister. One evening, the child is wandering around and finds the old radio, which suddenly comes to life with a message from Earth. There's a group of survivors in the south that has finally come out of the bunkers, and they invite Knopf to join them.